Moving to Croatia might sound like a dream. Sunshine, the sea, that Mediterranean lifestyle, but is it really that perfect? I've been living here for more than 3 years now and I absolutely love it most of the time, but there are definitely few things that no one warns you about. In this video, I'll share the pros and cons of living in Croatia from someone who has actually lived here, not just visited on holiday, and also from someone who has lived in 4 other countries: Ukraine, my homeland, Thailand, Germany, and the United Arab Emirates in Dubai. I'll start with the good stuff, with the pros of living in Croatia, so maybe get yourself a cup of coffee or something, and I hope you enjoy this video. And before we start, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to my channel where I share more about languages, cultures, and self-growth. And let's start right away. One of the biggest advantages of living in Croatia, and I mean huge, and personally for me this is such an important factor, it really outweighs all of the cons I will mention later in the video. This is safety. Croatia is one of the safest countries in Europe and I'll put a ranking somewhere here, but more importantly, I feel safe here. I've lived in different places, as I mentioned previously, Ukraine, Germany, Thailand, Dubai, but I've never felt as safe as I do in Croatia. I can walk alone at night and not feel scared. There are no sketchy looks, no aggressive behavior, no people yelling or fighting in the street. Everyone is just calm, chill, peaceful and friendly. I've even seen people leaving their bags and phones on the cafe tables while they go inside, and they don't have to worry that everything will be gone when they come back. Even in bigger cities like Split or other touristic areas, I don't feel like I have to hold my bag tightly or be extra alert like I do in some other places. Of course, like everywhere, things can happen, but honestly, feeling safe in your everyday life is so important, especially when you think about future, maybe having kids, knowing that they grow up in a safe environment, that means a lot. So yes, this one is a major plus. This is one of the advantages because of which I can see myself living here long term. Croatia is a small country, but it's packed with natural beauty. From the crystal clear Adriatic Sea to majestic mountains to the charming coastal towns, the landscapes here are simply breathtaking. Living in such an environment is a daily reminder of nature's wonders. Even though I live far from the sea or mountains, I live closer to Hungary and Serbia, but my city also has its own charm. It's peaceful, with a lovely center, a river, and it's also surrounded by a wine-rich region of Slavonia. The local culture and cuisine also resonates with my Ukrainian roots, so it makes it feel more like a home. Croatia is really committed to preserving its natural beauty. There are a lot of national parks and protected areas. You can really feel this connection to nature. And being surrounded by such a beauty just enhances the quality of life. And it's not just about the picturesque views, it's about the peace and inspiration that comes with them. Croatia is located in the heart of Europe, let's say, which makes it really convenient for traveling. You can easily visit neighboring countries and go to Hungary, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, even Italy or Austria or Slovenia, and that's amazing. If you love road trips or going somewhere for a weekend, that's a really huge advantage. Plus, there is a pretty mild climate in Croatia with lots of sunshine, especially along the coast, but the continental parts of Croatia also have very nice weather most of the time. One of the major advantages of living in Croatia is the cost of living. Compared to a lot of other Western European countries, the cost of everything here is much lower. Rent, groceries, eating out, everything generally costs less. Of course, salaries in Croatia are also lower, and I'll talk about it more in the cons section, but still, if you're a freelancer or you earn from abroad, This becomes a huge win. You can enjoy a European lifestyle in a beautiful country without spending a fortune. In cities that aren't that touristic, like Osijek for example, you can find a very reasonably priced apartments and a relaxed lifestyle that doesn't come with a heavy price tag. Yes, prices are rising, and again, I'll talk about that a bit later, but still, Croatia remains an affordable place to live in, especially if you earn money from outside the country. Another big plus is taxes. Yes, Croatia might not be a tax haven exactly, but compared to some other countries like Germany or France, for example, where you might end up paying close to 50% of your income, taxes here feel much more manageable. If you're a freelancer or remote worker, there are several legal options to optimize your tax situation. For example, many migrants register as a small business or paušalni obrt in Croatian and pay a fixed monthly tax that's usually much lower than a progressive income tax in other countries. This means that you can keep more while still contributing to the system, and this makes Croatia a really attractive option, in my opinion, for remote workers who earn internationally from abroad. It's one of those things that people usually don't talk about a lot, but I really think it matters, especially if you're a freelancer again. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you more. I'm not a tax expert or consultant or something like that, but for myself personally, I know that the taxes are much better than in Germany, for example. One of the things that really surprised and touched me a lot when I first came to Croatia was the people. Croatians are quite open-hearted and always ready to help you, even if they don't know you at all. I've had people who don't know me at all go out of their ways to help me when I first arrived here, and that really left a lasting impression on me, because when I first arrived I was sad, I was lost, and I really needed that help, and I received more than I needed. Of course, building deep friendships as an adult and especially as a foreigner is really hard sometimes, but I think it would be true about any country, anywhere you go, and also depends on the person. But what is much easier here is just meeting good, friendly people who kind of become your everyday support, nice neighbors, helpful coworkers, or just people you see a lot and feel comfortable around. I live in the region of Slavonia, and I've heard this region specifically is famous for its warm-hearted, generous people, and I can really confirm that. People smile at you at the street, they are always ready to help if you are confused, they'll explain everything patiently. It's a very relaxing and welcoming vibe. There is no cold stares or rudeness that you might experience in some other places, especially if you come from a country where people tend to be more closed off or maybe grumpy in public. And honestly, it just makes everyday life so much easier and so much more pleasant. If you go somewhere, people will have this small talk with you, especially if you're foreigners. They'll ask you where are you from, they will praise your Croatian skills if you try to speak Croatian, and so on. So it's like, yeah, you feel welcome here. I know this one might sound strange to some, but I'm actually going to add Croatian bureaucracy to the pluses. Of course, it depends on what you compare it to. For example, if you compare it to Ukraine, you might feel like you have to deal with some paperwork here. But if you compare it to Germany, oh wow, Croatia is just a breath of fresh air. I've heard from many people that Croatian bureaucracy can be quite frustrating. Documents missing, typos in official papers, something always have to be brought again or corrected or something like that. But I'd say yes, it does happen, but the difference is you can usually solve these issues pretty quickly in Croatia. You don't have to wait 3 weeks for an appointment. Someone can just call you like, hey, can you bring this paper? And you bring it the same day or the next day and it's done. From my personal experience, paperwork in Croatia is quite fast and straightforward. Croatia is also moving towards digitalization, and they have this system called e-građani or e-citizen. And once you have your OIP and basic registration, you can easily download some documents online from this website or application. And I've done it myself as well, so it's even easier this way. So yes, bureaucracy exists, as it does everywhere, but compared to some other European countries, it's not such a nightmare. It's relatively simple, fast, and much less stressful than you might expect. At least that's my experience. Even though Croatian is the official language, many people speak English, and not just young people. I've met older people who didn't speak English that well, but still they tried their best to help me when I was new here. People here are generally open and willing to communicate, even if their English is not perfect, and that really makes a difference, especially if you're new. Besides English, you can also hear quite a lot of German and Italian, especially in the coastal areas, so it's actually quite a multilingual country in practice. As for Croatian itself, it's a Slavic language, so if you speak another Slavic language, it will be much easier for you to pick it up, as it was for me. If not, that might be challenging, but again, because a lot of people speak English and are willing to communicate in English, you don't have to necessarily learn it right away. I have to admit, I didn't like Croatian at first. It sounded harsh for me. But I think it was partly because Croatians are quite loud by nature. In cafes, when it gets busy, it can feel like you're sitting in the middle of the marketplace. It gets really noisy and kind of chaotic. Definitely not a relaxing background, especially if you're sensitive to the noise. But over time, I really started to like the language. I mean, the noise in public places still bothers me. I mean, I love peace and quiet, especially with my coffee, but the language itself really found a special place in my heart. Another thing I really appreciate about living in Croatia is its slower pace of life. People here don't rush as much. They really take time to enjoy life, to spend time with their families, and to live in the moment. I often see families out walking, people sitting in cafes for hours, and families, especially fathers, spending quality time with their kids, compared to what I used to see in Ukraine, where it was usually moms in the playgrounds with their children. Here I see a lot of dads playing with their children and taking them for walks. Croatians seem to value family time and leisure time more than chasing career success or working long hours. For some, it might feel like a lack of ambition, and yes, it sometimes can reflect in the way they approach work, but when it comes to the quality of life, this balance between work and personal life is a big plus. There is less stress, more presence, and more time to just enjoy a coffee in the sun and breathe. They live their life polako, slowly, and I guess we all could learn something from Croatians here. So far so good, but of course no place is perfect and Croatia is no exception. And while I really enjoy living here, there are some things that can be challenging, especially if you're coming from a different cultural or economical background. I wouldn't call it backwardness exactly, but Croatia can sometimes feel a bit behind, especially if you're coming from America, Asia, or a post-Soviet country. You might feel like you've traveled a few years back in time. Many services, businesses, and conveniences that we are used to are simply not available here yet. The food scene, for example, is pretty repetitive. Most restaurants offer more or less the same menus. That would be pizza, pasta, and grill. And yeah, there are some interesting and good places, but in general, there is very little variety. Same goes for the supermarkets. The product choice is very limited. And if you're used to big cities with lots of choices, if you like to enjoy your matcha latte with a coconut milk, you might miss it here. Some new concepts and places are starting to slowly appear, but especially in the bigger cities. But in general, the service and entertainment industries are still developing. Let's just say don't expect the same level of professionalism and variety as you might find elsewhere. There is also quality of manual work, anything that requires skilled labor like home repairs, renovations, or beauty industry, that can be hit or miss. I feel like people tend to stick to what they've always done, even if it's not the most efficient or high quality way anymore. Some things are simply not available at all, or if they are more expensive. I've definitely had moments when I had to buy something pretty basic, like a tech accessory or a specific skincare product, and I just couldn't find it in any local store, so I had to order it online from abroad. It often feels like people are slow to adapt to change. Innovation and new ideas take a long time to be accepted, and it feels like there is a very traditional mindset here, like we've always done it this way, why change it? And that can be really frustrating, especially if you're used to fast-paced environments and some modern solutions. Personally, I really crave more variety sometimes, more creativity, more modern vibes. But actually, you could turn it into an advantage. If you have an entrepreneurial mindset and you'd like to open a small business, there are a lot of open niches in Croatia that you could take over. Honestly, I've never seen as many people smoke as I have in Croatia. It feels like everyone smokes, and that's a really huge downside for me personally. I don't smoke, and I really don't enjoy sitting in a cloud of cigarette smoke, especially when I just want to enjoy my coffee at a cafe. The thing is, smoking is still allowed in most cafes and bars. The only places where it's really banned is proper restaurants and dessert cafes where they serve sweets and cakes, or slastičarna in Croatian. But in your typical cafe bar, and there are a lot of them in Croatia, smoking indoors is still totally normal. When I first moved here, I was really shocked because I was used to places where smoking in public places was banned and where smokers would usually step outside to be respectful. But here it's the opposite. People smoke at home, they smoke at cafes, and they don't really see anything wrong with that. What's even more surprising, the government actually did try to ban smoking at some point. But the cafes and bars starting to lose money because fewer people were coming, and they brought the smoking back. It's kind of sad. The economy won over the public health. And in winter it becomes even worse because outdoor sitting is not really an option, and it becomes really hard to find a place where you can enjoy your coffee without breathing cigarette smoke. As I said, only slastičarnas, dessert cafes and proper restaurants ban smoking inside, but because there are also people who don't smoke and they don't want to breathe the cigarette smoke, a lot of people come to those dessert cafes, and it's usually packed in the winter. Therefore, it's really, really loud inside, so it's also hard to just enjoy your coffee in peace, let's say. And to be honest, I used to smoke years ago and I quit. But when I see someone stylishly sipping espresso and smoking a cigarette, I actually want to smoke sometimes, just for a moment. That's the power of your environment. It influences you whether you like it or not. But then I remind myself why I quit and I stay strong. Still, it's frustrating. I wish smoking wasn't such a big part of a daily life here. While I mentioned earlier that Croatia is quite affordable if you earn a foreign income, the situation is pretty different if you live and work here in Croatia. Salaries in Croatia are low compared to some other European countries, and for a lot of locals it's hard to make ends meet, really. Many young people live with their parents well into adulthood because they can't afford the place of their own, and renting an apartment on a local salary is a quite expensive here. And if you live near the coast, in the touristic area, the situation gets even harder. During the summer season, prices go up significantly. Rent, groceries, even coffee, everything becomes more expensive. Of course, it's a popular problem for a lot of popular tourist places, but still, the prices there are really high in my opinion. Personally, I don't live in a very touristic area, so I don't experience this seasonal change of prices. And when I moved here, I actually found a job pretty quickly with a Croatian company. It was a remote job. They provided me with all the equipment I needed, and in less than a year I was offered a promotion. So it was pretty good in many ways, but I quit. First of all, because the salary just wasn't enough for the amount of work I was doing, and it was hard to live a good quality life on that salary. But also I had some night shifts and it reflected my health and lifestyle negatively. I know many Croatians are frustrated about the job market here. The government tends to bring in foreign workers who are willing to work for less instead of offering better salaries to locals. Therefore, many Croatians simply don't want those jobs, not because they are lazy, but because they are undervalued, and they themselves leave to other countries where they can find better salaries. So yes, this is one of the bigger downsides of living here. Wages stay low while the cost of living continues to rise, and it's really hard to find an interesting job that pays well, especially if you don't speak Croatian. So unless you are a freelancer and you earn from abroad, it can really be hard for you. This one concerns more the coastal area of Croatia, but a lot of things there depend on the time of the year. We've talked about prices already, but also during the summer everything becomes much more alive. Shops, bars, restaurants. But it also means crowds, traffic, and higher prices, as we mentioned. And it can get really busy, and honestly, not everybody enjoys this kind of atmosphere. Parking becomes a nightmare, beaches are packed, and there is just a general feeling of chaos. Then, once the tourist season is over, many places shut down for the winter, and a lot of towns just feel deserted. So you kind of have two extremes, too much happening in the summer and almost nothing happening in the off season. It's not necessarily bad, but it's definitely something to keep in mind, especially if you are thinking about living there long term. So those were some of the downsides I've experienced while living in Croatia. Of course, no place is perfect, and I wouldn't say there are a lot of negatives about Croatia, at least in my experience, but I do want to repeat that the first one I mentioned, the slower pace of life and maybe some lack of ambition, can be quite serious, especially for younger people who are career driven or who want more excitement. Croatia might not be the best choice if you're looking for fast growth, dynamic job markets, or a super ambitious lifestyle. It's a place where things move slowly and where people are quite content with what they already have. It can feel kind of limiting, especially because many Croatians are quite proud of their way of living and aren't always open to new ideas. But still, if you're someone who really values peace, family time, nature, and a slower lifestyle without needing luxury or constant stimulation, then maybe Croatia might be a great choice for you. As for me, I'm still here. Despite the few disadvantages, I love living in Croatia, and I'm young, so maybe in the future I'll try living somewhere else, and I'd actually like to live somewhere else one day. So if you have any suggestions, if you think that there is a country that is perfect for migration, for living, let me know in the comments what you think. But yeah, to be honest, after many moves I was a bit tired and I've been really craving some stability, and I wanted to kind of settle down somewhere for a while. And originally I was planning to do that in Ukraine, but the war changed everything, so I had to keep moving. And what the future holds, I don't know yet, but for now this is where I am, and I really love my calm and peaceful life here. Something I really appreciate these days. I hope this video helped someone out there. If you've lived in Croatia or if you live here, if you visited, let me know what you think in the comments below, whether you agree or disagree. Let's talk about that, and don't forget to give me a like and subscribe for my channel. I will see you in the next one, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye!